Well, good morning, everyone. I know we're going to have some more people joining us, but just in respect of the time, we will end promptly either at 12:45 or before. And I just appreciate you guys being on here. First of all, I just want to acknowledge the individuals that, raised their hand up. Some of them 5-6 weeks ago, and wanted to be a part of, the focus group that's been created. You guys have done an amazing job. This past week, we had a Tuesday and Thursday business opportunity meeting, and overall, it was amazing. Just to go through that process to, re-script your story in what, Taylor had done for many of you, and then to see it in action. I think we had some good flow. I know that I don't know what the second night was, and I know that first night, Tuesday night, there was, several signups that came, because of inviting that guest on there, their guest on there. And then a couple things that came out of that. I had a conversation with Taylor on Thursday, and we had made such a strong emphasis on the stories being tight, a minute and a half. And I know a lot of you, had that in mind as your stories were GPSed, as we referred to it as. And one of the things that Taylor had mentioned after listening to our recording was that it sounded too mechanical. It sounded too much script. And they sounded rushed. And that's what I brought up to her was the fact that, we were, striving for this minute and a half. But if it's not real, and if it's not genuine, if it's not authentic, if it's not emotional, if you don't get a chance to bring those feelings and emotion out because we're so, conducive to getting this done in a minute or minute and a half, if it takes 3 minutes, perfect. 3 minutes, perfect. And I think that's going to give some people some breathing room. Another thing that, yesterday, I posted the video of the recording and asked you guys if you would over the weekend. Some of you have already. Go back and look at that recording. And I want you to see with your eyes. I want to listen with your ears, and I want you to feel anything that you feel. And just capture it. We're all in this together. We're all here to grow. We're all here to learn. We all need to be transparent. We all need to be open to grow. And when I looked at the recording Thursday night, I haven't talked to Taylor yet, but when I looked at it Thursday night, maybe some more emotion and feeling would have been very helpful. And at the same time, and you guys have been in this process to reconstruct your story, not to change the facts of anything, but to reconstruct it based off the GPS. And I would say, guys, just continue to practice it. Continue to practice it. I would even encourage you to have it written out like you've got written out, but I would encourage you to practice it in front of the mirror. Practice it in front of the mirror, and then you don't need notes. You don't need PDFs to look at. And then when you practice that enough in the mirror, you've ingested it. Now what have we done over the last several weeks? We ingest it, and we keep ingesting it. And then we start to what? Metabolize it. And then we metabolize it, and guess what we start to do? Implement it. And then execute it, well-spoken, just like I could sit here and say 2 all beef, patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onion on the sesame seed bun. That you're just, and I think another part that just in observing from the observer's chair for a moment is Guys, you can never say anything wrong when you come from your heart. You can never say anything wrong when you come from your heart. And I would, not so much about all the right words and all the right sentences, saying all the right things. You know, whatever, if that's the left side or the right side of your brain, I don't know which one. I know it's one of them. But when you can come and speak from your heart and you express your heart, it doesn't matter if you missed a couple words. It doesn't matter if you messed up a sentence. I messed up about 4 or 5 things when I watched it Thursday night.
Takes a broom and sweep around.
Nobody knew that. So, you know, that's just what I want to touch. I'm lining up a new group for Tuesday night's meeting and Thursday night's meeting. Anyone on our team is invited to that, to attend and welcome it. We encourage it. We recommend it. The 2 that we did Tuesday and Thursday nights, they were both, one was 23.5, and I think the other one was 25.5 minutes. And I think as we continue, I think we're ultimately going to get to a place at about 20 to 22 minutes. Also, there was a few people, I had mentioned out this earlier in the week.
Almost like a person.
About, 1 second, I got to get, blah, 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 blah. There we go.
Almost like a real person.
Sorry about that. But I had mentioned earlier in the week that we were going to open this up. This will be recorded. I will have it available for all of you if you want it. And I opened that up for the whole team. Well, on Wednesday, I had a 30-minute conversation with Larry about that. And so we honored today, open up to everybody. And moving forward, on Saturdays when we do this, recommending, I mean, it's not optional to participate in that focus group. You have to become a member of the Academy, because what we're going to talk about in the Thompson Rule, what we're going to talk about in the 80-15-5, and we dig into the Thompson Rule, which is the foundation for which these 6 pillars are built upon. I thought I could go teach everybody this. I was willing to open up to our whole team and be that teacher. What was I essentially doing is I was going to the gym to lift their weights. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter, it's all okay. Some just, they're not going to participate. And I'm okay with it. No problem. No problem at all. But I will say that I've already seen the impact in the last few weeks from a couple teams that I there's 4 or 5 teams, and a couple teams happen to be in the same group. And I've watched volumes over the past several months, well, actually the last few years. And I saw a shift starting to take place last week. And what I identified, part of it, and possibly not all of it, maybe, perhaps, don't know for sure, but the team that now it's changed, because there's a handful of her team back here in the Academy. They're back in the focus group. They're using the tools in the app that's back there. They're starting to ingest it. Some are just starting to get a little flavor of metabolizing it. It's language, you guys have seen it. It's the language. It's the audience. It's the behavior. It's the power of the 6 pillars based upon that foundation of the Thompson Rule. 80-15-5. Everything is 80-15-5. And we cannot talk the same language to the 80% people who just want to make $500 to $1,500 a month. Not everybody wants to do a lot. Not everybody wants to make a lot based off their circumstances. But this incubator of this community, regardless if it's you just want a little, some want a little bit more, and some want a lot. Some are willing to do a little, some are willing to do a little bit more, some are willing to do a lot. And if you, I'm going to call upon a couple of you, Jessica, Terry first, just your takeaways from what hearing that Thompson rule, but it has been so, we all want the 5%ers. We all want the business builders. We all want the ones to massively grow. You know, we're looking for those. That's 5%. Sometimes along the way, we find a 15%er. Very, very few 5s. That's duplication or multiplication. Every now and then some 15s, which is duplication. But the 80%ers. 80%ers tied into this book, The Gig Economy. 80%, 60 million people looking for a way that's possible to earn an extra $500 to $1,500 a month. That's fun, simple, magical, flexible, and they don't have to become a marketing guru genius in the process. They only want $500 to $1,500 a month. But in that gig economy, there's 60 million of them. There's 60 million of them. The language is different. The audience is different. Their behaviors are the same. And I know I'm going to call on you, Terry, because I know you have, in your busy craziness of what's happening with your team over the last several weeks, you have found a way to spend some time to get a return on what you have invested. Would you just talk just for a few minutes about what that Thompson rule, what you gathered, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, as I'm looking back to what's happening with our team and the growth, I am going to say it's before I started this too, but this has enhanced it. But what has happened with our team before is, Maddie's Fast Chat has made a huge difference for us, empowering our leaders to go faster, and then Team Z. So that was happening before this, which has started our climb. But this is what I call my personal development, because we are so busy and it's hard to fit everything in, and we want to be running with our team, but you gotta do personal development. So instead of reading books, my personal development is the Thompson rule, is that academy. And what has happened was, and I know, Jessica and a lot of our team, the GPS of our story has been huge, and it's still morphing. I've been with the company 8 years, and my story has basically plopped in and been the same until Taylor helped us GPS and is still doing it and getting to those heart points. So like for my story was, being that sheltered girl who didn't go anywhere. We couldn't afford to go anywhere. And because of this company and in this situation in the world right now, so many people need that $500 to $1,500 in their home. So changing that focus, and then also the heart point of my sister's story with cerebral palsy, I'm not focusing on her disability. I'm focusing on what happened when she couldn't speak in a care facility. She needed someone to speak for her, and I would have had to left a job to do that. And with Zingular, I didn't have to. So with the 6 pillars, I'm still learning. I haven't watched all the videos. I've taken notes. I've got 18 pages of notes from the training. And I used it yesterday with Jessica because someone asked a question, and I love that. I don't know. All I know is, and then we don't have to know everything. And that just takes so much pressure off. And they've taught us that verbiage. I don't know. All I know is what this has done for me, or the benefits. So that's freeing. We don't have to know. And I think when people realize that we're just ordinary people, not these puffed up entrepreneurs, we're just ordinary people with heart and passion. That's what I've gotten out of it, Troy, because you want to be who you are authentically. You don't want to have to change. And yes, we're following, Larry and Taylor. They're very successful in their industry, but the authenticity and transparency is what is driving me in that. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I did left a message with a couple people. I didn't get your message back, so looking forward to talking to Jimmy here later after this call's over with. So he was one that I had reached out to. And just on that note, if you guys would, I'll just sometime over the weekend take a couple minutes and keep both Jimmy and Julie in your prayers. They're in the battle of their life, the fight of their life. So, Jessica, any comments from what you've gathered back there and what you've watched or listened to in particular?
I'll reiterate what Terry said about the other day, or last night. I was asking her, like, what do I say about this? I don't even remember like what I should answer, and having that tool to say, I don't know that, but what I do know, and then telling a story. I could tell like 7 stories based on that, but I couldn't like answer how it would affect her. So that was, I've used it like 3 times since Terry reminded me. Duh, we just learned this. I did call you back twice, but it went straight to voicemail, and I didn't leave a voicemail. Sorry.
Oops.
But also, when they went over, the fourth part is you. So we all have the same product, company, and compensation, but our story is the part that's really gonna help us. So we didn't join this company for statistics, even though we share that a lot. We joined it because we heard that they did it, so we can too. And that it's that story that really like gets us to join. And so this has helped me GPS. I wouldn't have even written a story had I not been in this group. I mean, I've been putting it off for 6 years. I keep trying to, and it's been really difficult for me. And so it's been like life-changing, and yeah. So
Awesome. Well, thank you. Well, if you got some time after, early afternoon, love to chat on a couple things that I reached out to you. So thank you so much, Jessica. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier, and one of the things that Taylor alluded to on the review is slides. And my daughter Anna is going to help me put together some things. If you guys have any slides or digital pictures of anything about the company, pictures of the wellness systems, the awards page, the different awards, I've seen that page before, and it's probably somewhere in my computer somewhere. But if you guys have got any slides that you would be willing to share, I'm not sure if I can control the slides from my end as the different speakers come up on, me about company, the products, the rewards program. I don't know if I can have all those in there, or as that person that's talking about that specific, at the products as an example. Do they have to control that picture of that slide back there? I don't, but we're going to have some things added, into there for sure. Larry, when I talked to him the other day, and it was a powerful, powerful example of the simplified follow-up. I reached out to him, actually spoke with him twice this week. I spoke to Taylor twice this week. So just to let you guys know, I'm trying to be just a pure, authentic conduit of taking what they are spending time with me, fine-tuning it, and taking it through the, being the messenger, taking it through the tube without adding anything, to it. But Larry gave a perfect example of how powerful that simplified follow-up was. I called him up. I asked how he goes, so tell me what's going on. What a great question to follow up with people. Tell me what's going on. And what are you doing? You're listening. It doesn't matter if it's a prospect. It doesn't matter if it's a person on their fourth day. It doesn't matter if they're a distributor that just started yesterday, last week, or 6 months ago. So Jessica, you don't have to answer this, but Jessica, so tell me what's going on. And I'm going to listen. I'm going to assess it. And based off what she shared with me is I'm going to come back and say, Jessica, you know what? Can I make a suggestion? Because what do we always want to do? We want to put the power in her hands, power in his hands. She's going to say, sure, what is it? And I'm going to make a suggestion. Well, based off what you just shared with me, you know what I think might be helpful for you? Why don't you go back there in the academy and why don't you watch the third piece of the 6 pillars? Or why don't you go back and watch the how to employ yourself, which really gets into the daily method of operation, which tags onto our IPAs, which tags onto Teamsy, which tags onto Fast Chats. Why don't you go ahead and take, when do you think you might be able to do that? You're going to say, I could do it tomorrow. Well, great. When can I expect to hear back from you? And you're going to tell me. So what we're doing is we're teaching more self-responsibility. What we're doing is and here again, I still have some old DNA in me. We got to get better at giving people the tools so they can go do it themselves. Because some of us have babysat and done a lot of things that all it did was to make people weak, and it weakened us in the process. And I'm sure you guys could agree to that. But go back. You're going to watch this. You call me back up. Wait 1 second. And I'd say, Jessica, is there anything else I can help you with? You may say yes, and what am I going to do? I'm going to do the same thing all over again. So what else can I help you with? I'm going to listen. I'm going to assess. I'm going to GPS. This one might be in regards to coaching somebody through 2 or 3 or 4 days, in their 8 days. Going to give a suggestion. When can we get back and talk about that? You put it in their hands. They call back. So Jessica, tell me how things are going. Well, you would not believe this. You gave me that recipe, or you gave me those recipes, and they went on there and they found some more stuff that was really to their palate, or whatever it is. And is there anything else I can help you with? No. Great. Larry did that to me the other day. He asked me, Troy, tell me what's going on. And he listened. He GPS'd it. Are we clear? Perfectly clear. So is there anything else I can help you with? And I brought up another thing. And he listened. He had GPS'd it. He made a suggestion. On one of the suggestions, I got to get back to him on Monday. He made another suggestion. Are we good? Are we clear? You tracking with me? Does it make sense? And if it didn't, he would have done the same thing all over again. And then he did it a third time. And finally, I didn't have anything else. He goes, does this sound familiar? I said, yeah, you just followed me to completion. Guys, that works with anybody on any subject matter, whether we are in, out of the house, regardless. It's powerful. It's powerful. In this language, audience, and behavior, that's the first pillars. There's 6 of them. The audience. Who's the audience? 60 million people in the gig economy. This was prior to the pandemic. There was 60 million of them. They want their lives back to normal. You guys, we all want our lives back to normal. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, normal's not coming back. But 60 million, they just want $500 to $1,500 a month. Fun, simple, magical, won't disrupt their lifestyle, flexible. that they're good enough right where they are right now. And, I remember sitting down and wanting to have a conversation with people when they got started to go do a goal planning session, to put a game plan together, or have them listen to this 3-hour thing. I've been guilty of that because that's what that was given to me. So I thought it's like, if you know the audience and language and behavior, and they want $500 to $1,500 a month, we already know their goal. We don't have to spend any more time on goal setting. We know it. The language. Well, the language difference. When you look at that 60 million people, and Larry talks about that 60 million people in that gig economy, kind of like a basketball, 60 million. And the 6.2 million people in the direct marketing space in the industry. 6.2 million people. There's a language in that community. There's a language that I have been brought up into. There is a language that, because you got to go to the meetings. You got to go to the meetings. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do that. And if you don't do all that stuff, you know what? You're made to feel like you weren't good enough. And the person that just wants to make $500 to $1,500 a month, they're not going to do that kind of stuff. But that language in those 60 million people up to age 35 that want $500 to $1,500 a month, what's that language? It's to get their hair done more. It's to get their nails done more. Maybe to get a massage or two a month. Maybe to go to a spa. Maybe a shopping trip with the girls. Maybe it's to go out and get a car so they don't want to be a strain on the family's budget. It's just $500 to $1,500. So if we know that's their language, we know what they're looking for. The 35 to 55-year-old group. What's their language? What's that audience look like? College expense for their kids, weddings for their daughters, 401ks, to get out of debt, elder care for their parents. That's the language in that demographic group. And then the 55 up, it's income, unfortunately, for a lot of people in that group. They got to go to work because they got to get their medicine. Their plan didn't work out. You think most of those people that are out there working that are 65 and older want to do what they are doing for $12.17 an hour? No. They want to see their grandkids. They want to do things. Jessica, look, that's your mom and dad. Before all this craziness happened, a lot of their plans over their years revolves around their grandkids, and to know that language, getting them to take a look if there was a way possibly that we could put you in a position. Don't know if we can. Maybe it's possible to be in a position to be earning $500 to $1,500 a month with something that's fun, simple, flexible. Kind of like a Amazon thingy. I bet I've said Amazon thingy about 12 times this past week because there's an audience that understands the Amazon thingy. They don't want a website. They don't want a storefront. They think it's more than it is. It's the same thing, But to be able to, have that, would you possibly be willing to take a look at it? Don't know if you would. Don't know if you want. Just want me to get you to raise your hand. Just want them to, right? That's what we're trying to do, get them to raise their hand, right? And that kind of language is appealing. It's not threatening. It doesn't sound like that Amway language. It doesn't sound like that. I shouldn't even said that. It doesn't sound like the typical space in the industry. And all this, well, yeah, Jessica, I would. start the text replacements. I mean, that's a perfect tie-in. You may have to modify it because if they're raising their hand for a business, it's a little different than if they raise their hand, to get started on the products. The 3 Ps, we talk about it. The 3 Ps, the power of the 3 Ps. Presentation, posturing, and I can't even remember, positioning. And the whole emphasis of our presentation, regardless of what your conversation you're having with people, whether it's the product or the opportunity or both. The most important and most powerful piece of the presentation is not how well you deliver, not how much knowledge you have, not how fancy our PowerPoints and things that, we have typically at times used different things like that. The most important part of the 3 Ps is the presentation, and the key to that is, did you make that person feel good about you? Did you make that person feel good about it or the offering? And most importantly, did you make that person feel good about themselves? That's powerful. You, it, and them. You, it, and them. Don't know if would. Don't know if would be. Raise your hand. Want to take a look? Maybe, perhaps. We're giving them control to help them come up with a natural, logical conclusion based off their current circumstances. And if we make them feel good about us, it, and them, based off circumstances, may not be the right time. We all didn't get started the first time, maybe, possibly, when it wasn't the right time. You planted a great seed. You made them feel good about themselves. And then you add them to Teamsy. And when it starts back over, hey, Jessica, so what's going on? You listen. You GPS it. It may be a better time. And whatever that presentation is, make them feel good about you, make them feel good about it, and make them feel good about themselves. You guys, there's a lot of you on this team, this group that's here, our team. There's a lot of powerful seeds that have been planted in the past. Maybe it wasn't their time because of circumstances. Jess, I know I talked to you a couple years ago, was thinking about you. I know you raised your hand and had some interest. If it was possible, Jessica, right now, based off current circumstances, would you be open possibly to take a look at something that we could help create an extra $500 to $1,500 a month? Is that something you may be at this time be willing to take a look at? DMO, we talk about that, daily method of operation. It's our IPAs, it's Teamsy, and the fast chat. I discovered something a couple days ago. And here again, with my technology skills and coming here and then going there and going over there and then coming back over here and then going over there. Plus I'm not very skilled at it, but I'm proud of myself. I feel good. I've learned a lot in the last 6 to 7 weeks. But what I found out, I was so engaged with so many conversation and voice messages, I wasn't even putting the stuff in Teamsy. It's like, okay, how do I do this? And I just got to find a better flow of what that looks like, because I think my brain is kind of like, I can only focus on one thing at a time. Plus this, but anyway, but I see, this is what I see. This is what I see. Larry said when I left Dallas on February 17th, he goes, it's going to take you about 60 to 90 days if you're willing to ingest it. Not just to go back there and listen, to learn, but listen to teach, to know. Go back there that right now, based off of GPS, because this morning I listened to the Thompson Rule again. That was the 6th time that I've listened to it in 8 weeks. You know, some of these other, but to know it so well that as you're assessing doing GPS, I think you need to go listen to how to employ yourself. I think you would be suggested to do that. And I look at all the training over, 37, 8 years now, been around a lot of great stuff, been around a lot of amazing teachers, read a lot of books. And my internal compass says, why have I bought into this at a much higher level than I bought into anything else that I spent money on? Some of you guys know this. Last year, I spent 6 months with Dave Blanchard from the Agmandino Group. That's $10,000. $10,000. What's back in that academy? And I know I learned so much from that experience. The biggest thing was being able to take myself out of my world and put myself into other people's world and see the world from their lenses, to build a bridge to their heart, to ground myself in love with them, so in a matter of a couple of minutes, you can help people's walls come down instantly so you can serve them. You know, that's a lot of money. But the thing that sold me more than anything, because I bought and sold stocks and bonds for 23 years. I had to do an analysis on companies, on projections, on products, leadership, all the stuff that we did to say, okay, I think it's time for you to buy, GoDaddy right now, or it would have been a good time to buy Zoom about 2 months ago. But 52 years in the industry. He's just a man. Larry is just a man. He's highly skilled. He's still a student. He still sees as wanting to learn more. But when I look at this little thing that they gave us when we were in Dallas, and it was a picture of the people that were with Larry when Herbalife grew from 1 million to 100 million a month in 4 years. That's moving fast because it was simple. Concepts, philosophical approaches. And I look at this list. Dan McCormick is one of these. I think a lot of you know Dan McCormick. Dan McCormick was my mentor's mentor. Randy Stradle, that passed away a couple of years ago. Dan was Freddie's mentor. When Randy passed away, I had met Dan, met him several years ago, and offered to step in to help in Randy's role, because there's a coach, there's a teacher, there's a mentor, and then there's a confidant. And Dan opened up. He's the one that eventually introduced this or invited me to come down there in February. But in 1985, when Herbalife went from 100 million a month to a few million a month in a matter of a few weeks, all these high achievers, big builders of big teams, all had to go find new homes. And they're in companies, different companies all over the world, this group of people here. They attested, each and every one of them, the Thompson Rule and the 6 pillars as training. This stuff is foundational. This stuff is concept, it's principle, it's philosophical approaches. The same stuff that they're teaching today is the same stuff that they were teaching 50 years ago or whatever that was. Yeah, 50 years ago. Techniques change. We got a great technique right now. It's called Fast Chat and Teamsy. We didn't have a year ago, 2 years ago. Based off of, it may change again in 6 to 12 to 18 months. Who knows? But we want to know when we got it running and we got a lot of momentum with it, we want to keep driving it and driving it and driving it and driving it. So guys, I know this is a lot. I think I had alluded to this, and we're just about at 45, alluded to this about 6 or 7 weeks ago. This is all my personal growth and development. I'm not reading anything else except the Bible. I'm not listening to anything else except the audios of this. This is it. This is it. We talked about fun, simple, magical. We talked about the time has ended. Think about this. The time has ended. Give yourself permission today. The time has ended for us to stop growing by addition. You guys have heard me talk about that a few times. The time has ended to stop today. That we occasionally, every once in a while, some get a little bit more, than others, but most duplication doesn't happen often enough. So we're ending that today. Today, we're going to begin to see in our mind's eye the time for us to multiply is now. You're good enough right now where you're at. And there is absolutely nothing as your teams and your checks begin to multiply like you've never seen before. When that starts to happen, if it takes you out of your comfort zone, raise your hand and ask for help. You got support to help you. You got a lot of support to help you. So guys, I just appreciate this. So next week when we do this again on Saturday, it will only be for those that are in the academy and then have been added to the Facebook group. That Facebook group is going to start having some additions here with some great stuff. And I had a few people, actually, there's a couple coming in today. Can people still become a part of the academy? Absolutely. If they want to do that, they're raising their hand. I would welcome the opportunity to talk with them just for a few minutes with you. And I say that because I think just where I can sell a bigger picture of it. And sometimes it's better to have another voice come in. Is she just trying to sell me? I just want people to come up with a natural logical conclusion that based off their circumstances and based off their willingness and desire to be coachable and to work we'd love to have them here. Guys, I told you this, it's going to happen. We're at 45 minutes. I'm going to close with this. At the completion of this 100 days, corporate, Mark, Russ, Curtis, Steve are going to call up and want to know what we're doing. Rudy, I've already started to plant that vision in my mind. I've already started to see this thing exploding for you guys. So sometimes we have to see things through others' eyes. Sometimes we got to buy into someone else's trust and belief and confidence in ourselves before we see it ourselves. So thank you guys, much appreciation and gratitude. And I will, once my new social media marketing helper, my beautiful daughter who has agreed to help Dad out about 10 to 12, maybe 15 hours a week, I think this train is getting ready to blow out of the station. So I love you guys, appreciate all of you. and make it a great day. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much.